What makes a heist legendary? Is it the sheer value of the loot, the impossible odds, or the ghost-like ability of the thieves to vanish without a trace? Here's a wild stat to start. In the last few decades, thieves have walked away with well over $1 billion in cash, jewels, and art. And in many of the most audacious cases, most of it was never recovered. These aren't just robberies. They're meticulously planned operations that blur the line between crime and performance art. They are stories of cunning, nerve, and sometimes sheer dumb luck. Get ready, because we're about to count down 10 of the most insane heists from around the world. Kicking off our list at number 1 is the Can Carlton Jewel Heist of 2013. Picture this: the glamorous French Riviera, a sun-soaked Sunday in July. Inside the Carlton Intercontinental Hotel, an extraordinary diamond exhibit is underway, showcasing priceless pieces from the legendary Leviev Diamond House. Security is present, but the atmosphere is relaxed. Suddenly, a lone thief, wearing a simple cap and scarf, strolls in through an unlocked French door from a terrace. No alarms, no forced entry. He pulls a semi-automatic pistol, and in less than a minute, he stuffs a briefcase with 72 pieces of jewelry, including flawless diamonds and other precious gems. He then walks out the same way he came in. The total haul? A staggering $103 million, or about 136 million US dollars. It was one of the biggest jewel heists in history, executed by a single person in broad daylight. No shots fired, no elaborate getaway, just pure, unadulterated confidence. The prime suspect? Milan Popovic, a member of the notorious Pink Panthers gang, known for their cinematic smash-and-grab style. But to this day, the thief has never been caught, and the jewels have never been seen again. From the sun of the Riviera, we head to the grey streets of London for our next entry. At number 2, we have the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Heist of 2015. Over a long Easter weekend, a crew of thieves targeted a supposedly secure underground safe deposit facility in London's Diamond District. But this wasn't your typical crew of young, agile criminals. The masterminds were a group of men in their 60s and 70s, veterans of the British underworld. They disabled the elevator, rappelled down the shaft, and used a heavy-duty industrial drill to bore a hole through 20 inches of reinforced concrete. It took them 2 nights. When the police alarm was triggered on the first night, the security company simply dismissed it. The crew returned the next day to finish the job, ransacking 73 deposit boxes. They made off with an estimated $14 million in cash, gold, and jewels. Dubbed the Bad Grandpas by the media, their low-tech, old-school approach became legendary. Though most of the ringleaders were eventually caught, thanks in part to bragging in a London pub, a significant portion of the loot, and one mysterious member of the crew, known only as Basil, were never found. Staying in England, we go back in time for number 3, the Great Train Robbery of 1963. This is the heist that set the standard. In the dead of night, a 15-member gang led by Bruce Reynolds tampered with a railway signal to stop a Royal Mail train traveling from Glasgow to London. The train was carrying huge sums of cash from banks. The gang quickly overpowered the staff and detached the front 2 carriages, which held the high-value packages. They formed a human chain to unload 120 mail bags. They made off with $2.6 million, that's over 50 million or 60 million in today's money. It became an instant legend, a symbol of rebellion against the establishment. The subsequent manhunt was massive, and while most of the gang was captured, the story was far from over. Infamously, one of the robbers, Ronnie Biggs, escaped from prison and lived as a fugitive for 36 years, becoming a notorious public figure before finally returning to the UK. For number 4, we fly to New York for the Lufthansa heist of 1978. At JFK Airport, a crew of mob-connected thieves, masterminded by Jimmy the Gent Burke, targeted a Lufthansa cargo vault. They knew a huge shipment of untraceable cash was being flown in from Germany. In just 64 minutes, the armed and masked robbers stormed the terminal, rounded up the employees, and loaded an estimated $5 million in cash and nearly $1 million in jewels into a van. At the time, it was the largest cash robbery ever committed on U.S. soil. Number 5 takes us back to London's Heathrow Airport for the Brink's-Mat robbery in 1983. A six-man gang, with inside help from a security guard, broke into a warehouse expecting to find $3 million in cash. Instead, they stumbled upon the jackpot of a lifetime: 3 tons of solid gold bullion. The gold was worth $26 million then, nearly $90 million today. The problem? Stealing 3 tons of gold is one thing. Selling it is another. The gang had to enlist the help of underworld figures to melt down the gold, mix it with copper to disguise its purity, and slowly feed it back into the legitimate market. This heist is infamous for the Brink's-Mat curse. Many of the individuals involved, from the robbers to the money launderers, met violent ends in the years that followed. It's said that if you bought gold jewelry in the UK after 1983, you might be wearing a piece of the Brink's-Mat loot. At number 6, we have the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Center robbery of 1987. This one was all about deception. The mastermind, Valerio Vice, an Italian lawyer's son and playboy fugitive, walked into the deposit center in broad daylight, posing as a customer wanting to rent a box. Once inside the vault, he and an accomplice pulled guns, subdued the manager and guards, and hung a temporarily closed sign on the door. They then let in the rest of their crew, who spent hours breaking into as many boxes as they could. They walked away with an estimated $60 million, worth over $170 million today. Vice fled to Latin America, but his ego was his downfall. He returned to England to retrieve his beloved Ferrari and was promptly arrested. His audacity was legendary, but his vanity got him caught. Number 7 is the Securitas Depot robbery of 2006, Britain's biggest cash robbery. This heist was as brutal as it was ambitious. The gang, disguised as police officers, abducted the depot manager, Colin Dixon, as he drove home. Simultaneously, another part of the crew went to his house and took his wife and young son hostage. With his family's life on the line, the manager was forced to cooperate. He was taken to the Securitas Cash Depot in Kent and helped the gang bypass the complex security systems. The crew tied up 14 staff members and loaded a 7.5-ton truck with $53 million in cash. The sheer volume of money was their biggest challenge. They had to leave behind another $154 million simply because they couldn't fit it in the truck. A massive police investigation involving groundbreaking forensic work with DNA led to several convictions, but over $32 million is still missing. Coming in at number 8 is the Antwerp Diamond Heist of 2003, often called the Heist of the Century. The target was the Antwerp Diamond Center, a vault 2 floors below ground, protected by 10 layers of security, including Doppler radar, infrared heat detectors, a seismic sensor, and a lock with 100 million possible combinations. It was considered impenetrable, but a team of Italian thieves known as the School of Turin spent over 2 years planning their attack. They rented an office in the building to study the alarm system and even managed to get a key to the vault duplicated. They bypassed the heat sensors with hairspray and defeated the other systems with painstaking ingenuity. They emptied 123 of the 160 deposit boxes, taking an estimated $100 million in loose diamonds, gold, and other jewels. The crew was only caught because of a simple mistake. One of them left behind a partially eaten sandwich, and the DNA evidence, combined with discarded trash bags found nearby, unraveled the entire plot. The mastermind, Leonardo Notarbartolo, was caught, but he claims they were hired to rob the vault and that the real take was much smaller, a story many believe is a diversion. The diamonds were never found. For number 9, we travel to Brazil for the Banco Central burglary in Fortaleza, 2005. This was a masterpiece of engineering and patience. A gang of around 25 people rented a commercial property in the city center, posing as a fake landscaping company. For 3 months, they worked around the clock, digging an 80-meter or 260-foot tunnel. The tunnel was sophisticated, complete with its own lighting, air conditioning, and structural supports. It led directly underneath the vault of the Banco Central. Over a weekend, they broke through a meter of steel-reinforced concrete and simply emptied the vault. They removed 3.5 tons of Brazilian reais, worth about $70 million. The crime wasn't discovered until the bank opened on Monday morning. The aftermath was dark and violent. Several members of the gang were kidnapped and murdered by other criminals for their share of the loot, and the alleged mastermind was found shot to death. Only a fraction of the money was ever recovered. And finally, at number 10, the largest private property theft in world history, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist of 1990. On the night after St. Patrick's Day in Boston, two men dressed as police officers buzzed the museum's security entrance, claiming to be responding to a disturbance. Breaking protocol, the young security guard let them in. The officers quickly overpowered the two guards on duty, tied them up in the basement, and then had the entire museum to themselves for 81 minutes. They didn't steal the most valuable art, but instead seemed to pick specific pieces. They crudely cut masterpieces by Vermeer, Rembrandt, and Degas from their frames. By sunrise, 13 priceless works of art were gone. The estimated value is over $500 million, but the cultural loss is immeasurable. The stolen pieces include one of only 34 known Vermeers in the world. Of course, there are countless others. Honorable mentions go to the Harry Winston heist in Paris, where thieves dressed as women stole over $100 million in jewels, and the daring smash-and-grab raids of the Pink Panthers gang across Europe and Asia. So what's the takeaway from these incredible stories? The crazy part is that most of these weren't about high-speed chases or explosive shootouts. They were about meticulous planning, exploiting human error, and having the patience to wait for the perfect moment. They are puzzles of audacity and logic that continue to fascinate investigators and the public alike. And they prove one thing beyond a doubt. Sometimes real life is far stranger and far bigger than anything you'll see in the movies. But let's be perfectly clear. These actions had severe consequences, often leading to violence, long prison sentences, and ruined lives. So, a friendly reminder: don't try any of this, ever.